Hey guys, King of Charmanders here. Alright, so you guys like the individual analysis, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically run through mons that are super popular. You probably likely have seen them before, or I'm just going to make them as simple and as short as possible as far as the introduction goes, for the go-up analysis, and for the rankings, just because, yeah, if something is meta, I don't need to really put it down and say it's meta again. Anyways, really quick, so Registeel operates pretty much like it does in Season 1. If you've played Go Battle League for a little bit, or if you played Go Battle League for a while, you do know that Registeel used to be the most annoying thing in the world, or you would see it as the most powerful, one of the most powerful things in the world. It was actually the most powerful mod in like the preseason Season 1 before they nerfed it, and then when Galarian Stunfisk came out, it essentially replaced Registeel. Now, it basically operates the same way it did in Season 1. It's a giant tank, you have Flash Cannon, you have Focus Blast. Don't get too fancy with it, Metal Claw does nothing for you, so does Rock Smash. It's a terrible move. If you like punching something in the face, you will not smash it to death. You will counter it to death, which is kind of weird because the Rock Smash is cooler in counter in my opinion. Anyways, your operating moveset is Flash Cannon and Focus Blast. Now, even though Registeel was nerfed, it's still generally good in a lot of instances, especially when you have G-Fizz banned. As you see here, the reason why Registeel is so good is not just because it has a fantastic moveset, because Lock-On generates energy quickly, Focus Blast has great coverage, Flash Cannon gives you stab. It's weak to fighting, fire, and ground, but it can still even threaten those fighters. And the best part about it, with G-Fizz gone, Registeel is the best steel type in the Great League Remix. Having like every single resistance known to man, not really every single resistance, but you get the meaning. It has like what, 12 resistances. It resists the Charmers, it resists the Dragon Breaths from Ataria, it resists pretty much everything this meta brings, including Bastiodon. Registeel is so strong. That's why it's so powerful. It's the strongest closer in the Great League Remix, and for good reason. Alright, so here's the Great League Remix rankings. As you see here, overall, Registeel ranks at number 3. It is the third strongest, not to be surprised, in the entire meta. When you take away G-Fizz, Registeel runs rampant, especially when you take away, like, Swampert, which is base Swampert, and Swampert, what else? And some other things that Registeel, like, really targeted Registeel were also banned in the Great League Remix. As you see here, it does really, really well against two key things, like basically the resistances are what make it so strong. It can even beat Scrafty just because you can Focus Blast it to death. So having Registeel is going to be a big meta pick for the Great League Remix. As you see here, best used in a closer, however, it still does pretty good as a lead, especially if you find that people are using Charmer leads a lot, then you can probably use Registeel to do that. In all honesty, I would rather you leave it as a closer because you can deal with Charmers easier, especially like Registeel. One Flash Cannon will effectively kill most Charmers in one shot. As you see here, Registeel, I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick. Registeel, like I said, don't recommend as a lead. There are better leads out there. Keep Registeel in the back. It does really well for you, especially if you manage to lock into Altaria. You're going to have a great time. As a switch, Registeel isn't the best either. Again, it specializes in basically two positions, which would be the lead and closer, mostly the closer. So if you're going to put Registeel, leave it mostly in the back. You can lead with it, like I said, but there are better leads out there. As a closer, this is where you want it the most. It is the most powerful closer in the Great League Remix, losing only to Electivire Shadow just because of Wild Charge and other fighters. Registeel will beat every other pick on this list, again, except even fighters. But as you see here, there's no reason why. It literally takes out all the ice archetypes with Flash Cannon. Focus Blast has great coverage, and you pretty much OKO Bastiodon and anything that's weak to it in one shot. Flash Cannon can also do heavy damage against things like Sableye. Mandibuzz, basically anything that doesn't resist Flash Cannon, you can deal heavy damage with it as long as it doesn't resist it. Like I said, you can still beat it as long as his build beat a lot of things as long as you have energy advantage. For example, 2 Focus Blasts will likely KO a Politoed as long as you have energy lead. Alright, as I always say, please consider donating to pbulk.com. Here's the Matrix. The Matrix is probably what you want to see the most, so that's why I put a new thing on the description on the beginning where it says, hey, here, you could skip to the Matrix like this. If you already know what Registeel is, you're not going to be too surprised. Anyways, the Matrix will be interesting this time around because Registeel is so powerful. As you see here, IV-wise, Registeel, you just want the best IV you can. As you see here, I put a somewhat crappy IV one here and a good IV, as in low attack and high HP and defense. You want Registeel as high as possible, but of course, in order for you to get one like this low, you have to get it traded to you. The Registeel has been released a lot in the past, so if you don't have a good one already, you should, if you are looking at this video, you should have a good Registeel. Your Registeel should have been your trash can. I like calling it the hot garbage trash can, etc. You should have Registeeled your elo. You should have Registeeled their elo. Well, Registeel has possibly stealed your elo, like it has to me, and it also has, you have stolen their elo with Registeel. You have Registeeled those elo. You have stole their girl, their life, their hopes, their dreams, and possibly their chances at legend. I'm just kidding. Hopefully you didn't. If you did, shame on you. I'm just kidding. Anyways, we got 2 shields here. I got the remix red out to the right. We're gonna run it. Again, you want as high as possible as far as IVs go. So just make sure you have a really high IV one. As you see here, Registeel runs over a lot of things. The reason why it's a bad idea in Elite, I'll show you in a sec, but basically it destroys the ice types, Bastiodon, Chestnut, etc. Now, here's the interesting thing. Registeel can actually lose the 2 shield against Altaria, so that's why it's not even a great lead, just because Altaria can just bully it through with essentially Dragon Breaths. As you see here, yes, you lose the 2 shield. And even if you block everything, this is mostly because Flash Cannon was also nerfed. So because Flash Cannon was nerfed last year, this is why Registeel basically loses to Altaria. That and Dragon Breath damage is just OP, so just keep that in mind. You're also going to lose against fighters and pseudo fighters. That's why it's not such a great lead. Fighter leads are very powerful in this meta just because they do a lot of coverage and do a lot of damage over time. As you see here, like I mentioned before, basically anything you are able to Flash Cannon or Focus Blast to death, you do heavy damage against. You take out Flappers, Mandibuzz. You can take out Mandibuzz. You can take out Regirock. As you see here, a good IV Registeel will actually beat a crappy IV Registeel, as you see here. In this case, bulk will matter. So if you do get the mirror, CMP kind of does matter if you're in even energy scenarios, but if you're ahead of energy, then you want the bulkier one, because you can kind of itch out like a 1 HP in a dream scenario like you see here. That's only in the 2, that's assuming the 2 shield though. As you see, you do really strong as Tropius, Shadow Victory Belt, etc. More on this later, but anyways, that's why Registeel isn't really the greatest lead, because, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of fighters out here. Wishcat, Daddy Cash also comes back to wreck your soul because Swampert is on probation, i.e. it's banned. That's the 2 shield. As you see, you do really well against whatever Registeel is strong against, typing-wise, but again, the really threatening fighters are a big reason of why you don't want Registeel in the lead. You can still use it, but you make sure you have double coverage against it in the back. As you see here in the 1 shield, things get a little better. You're able to blast down a lot of things. Like, this is where Registeel gets better as shields go down for the Great League Remix. Of course, you are going to blast through pretty much everything from before that, like, you can one-shot to death. Here's the thing about it here, though. Against a Haunter matchup, you might not see, the keyword is you might. With Umbreon being banned, yes, Scrafty's still out there. However, Haunter is a monster in this meta, just because Shadow Punch and Shadow Ball are just do so much damage. But as you see here, a high IV Registeel can actually flip the Haunter matchup, so just keep that in mind. Also, as you see here, you beat Hypno, you beat Lap, you beat the Psychic types, you beat Ice types, of course, because you just you Focus Blasted to death. Also, a high IV can take out Melmetal. The thing about Melmetal, like, this is where IVs matter. Ironically, one of those strongest meta picks in the game, IVs do matter. The reason being is because, as you see here, you can actually live with 2 HP. So you can live a double superpower. So if they don't bait you, you basically win the matchup outright. However, if they try to double superpower, you can live with 2 HP. So IVs do matter if you're in even energy scenarios with Melmetal in the 1 shield. As you see here, you do beat a ton of things with Registeel, so there's really not much of an introduction. Again, just be very mindful that Registeel, there are fighters out here, however, in the 1 shield, as shields go down, or if you have shield advantage, you can do a lot of things with Registeel. Just be careful of the fire, like I said, especially if they have Pup. Now, the interesting thing is, if you do use Registeel, anything with ground is probably going to give you a really hard time. Good example here is probably things like Meganium. Now, with Meganium, you have to call the Earthquake or you die. It's that simple. Steel is weak against ground. When ground hits steel, steel hurts. That's all you need to know. Well, at most ranges. So if we go to the zeros, as you see, the zeros is where Registeel shines the most. Registeel will do the most damage in the zeros in this meta. As you see here in the 2-to-1s, you're basically going to lose a lot of fighter leads, but you're generally going to beat what you're going to beat. The reason why Registeel is so strong in this meta, because in the 2 and the 1s, even if you're not in the zeros, the fact that it's so good against psychic types and it deals such heavy damage over time does really well. So in the 1-to-0s are just, here's the zeros. This is where Registeel's best position. Again, you want to leave Registeel in the back. A strategy you can do is basically have 2 pressure mons in the front and then just leave it to the closer Registeel. Registeel with shield advantage or Registeel with energy advantage can do heavy damage to pretty much everything except, I would say, fighters. But again, if you have energy lead or shields, you can do fine. As you see here in the closer, you nuke everything, only losing to things that basically flame charge you to death or things that could possibly focus blast you and OKO you. Now remember when I said IVs matter? They do. So the thing about Registeel is having a good Registeel, I'll do a breakpoints and bulk points after I do the matrix analysis, but you'll see like here. High IV Registeel can actually beat a few things. Okay, so you do beat Shadow Champ if you have a high attack one because you're able to flash can to death. However, if you do have a high IV Registeel in the closer, you can beat Meganium as you see here. You can also beat other Registeels because you can live their Focus Blast. You can also beat Sableye, you'll flash cannon to death, and you can, yeah, that's pretty much it. You flip a lot of relevant meta matchups with better IVs. Ironically, Registeel being super meta is one of the things where IVs matter. If you call your best friend, you call your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, whoever has Registeels or possibly a ready for port and don't play the game anymore, trade your Registeels or ask them if you can have their Registeels because it really is worth it to get that good IV one, especially like you see here for the closer. Now, the thing about Registeel is that you can still, again, the mirror match is probably the most important one. As you see here, if you do get the mirror match, the Registeel with better IVs can get to, well, you can win just because you're going to live by like 3 HP. Again, the better IV Registeel will win, and the reason why in ones you kind of lose it is just because of CMP. Basically, if you're not ahead of energy, their Registeel will blast you to death, or if they bait you. Well, you shouldn't be baiting with Registeel just because it's one lock on more, but if you're in that scenario, it's pretty rough. And now the 1-to-0s. This is what I mean by you can use a strategy to where you can essentially just have your front 2 Pokemon smash the crap out of everything else, because a 1-2-0 Registeel will beat everything except probably fighters and Jellicent. So the thing about Registeel and probably what's going on is Jellicent is probably your worst nightmare. It resists everything you have to throw at it. It will resist your flash cannons. It will resist a focus blast. So Jellicent might not be a bad anti-meta pick for this cup if you're targeting Registeel. Anyways, more on that later for our next video. As you see here, with a good Registeel, however, you can beat a Jellicent with shield advantage. As you see here, you basically flash cannon it to death right here. But you need a good IV one because you literally live with 1 HP. So just keep that in mind. 1-to-0 Registeel is really strong. In the 2-to-0s, Registeel is a gorilla of destruction. It beats everything in the meta. As long as, well, yeah, it beats everything in the meta with 2 shields. It's even strong with shield advantage. So here's Registeel in the 2-to-0s, here's Registeel in the 2-to-1s. This is why I said you can kind of create a strategy where you leave shields for Registeel and have Registeel run over everything in the closer, because it's that good. Now with shield advantage in the 2-to-1s, as you see here, you're still going to lose against a lot of fighters, sadly. So Driplim and, again, Jellicent are probably worst nightmares because they do resist your moves. However, actually not Driplim, Jellicent. Jellicent's your worst nightmare. However, things like Diggersby, Deoxys defense can still run you over just because they punch you down. Even though you beat a ton of things, as I said here, fighters are basically your worst nightmare. Toxicroak, Medicham, Deoxys defense, Diggersby. So even in the 2-to-1s, it can be pretty threatening unless you can flash cannon something to death. It's probably going to be lights out for you if you can't, like I said, if you can't flash cannon it to death, or if it's not in flash cannon range, fighters will likely kill you. Let's give it, like, for example, with Toxicroak, if we put Toxicroak in the 2-to-1s, you have no energy advantage. Here's what happens. And you have to have a substantial amount of energy too, let's say 50. So if you do that, see, you need, well, you basically need, yeah, it's like 80 energy. So you need a ton of energy if you're going to beat Toxicroak or have a chance in the 2-to-1s, as you see here. So you need a ton of energy because it's going to punch you down. So it's not comfortable. Be very aware of the fighter. So if you're going to use Registeel, have 2 fighters or have Registeel with two coverage mods, which is the general synopsis, but it really works with Registeel. Again, with the IVs thing, as you see here, a good IV, Registeel allows you to beat Mew Flame Charge, Wild Charge. So if their Mew's rocking Flame Charge, if you have good IVs, you can win. Ironically, I would say after all the research I've done, Registeel probably has the more relevant IV matchups out of everything else if you're using it. So just keep that in mind. That's the 2 to 1s, 2 to 0s. I don't need to tell you, Registeel is good, and hopefully this matrix data helps you out. Now, on to the bulk points with Registeel. As you see here, Registeel the IVs do matter. Well, it's not so much as the bulk point, it's more so of the fact that extra HP you get. I think a good example is, let's see, if we go to the 1s, which probably has the most matchups where you flip. As you see here, it's not really the bulk or break points, it's just that extra HP you get from powering up. Unless it's Haunter. Haunter does have a bulk point here, so I wouldn't well, you could probably see Haunters, but Haunters still get threatened because of Sableye. Sableye, Haunter isn't a, like, see-all solution. There are things that can, like, beat Haunter. So just, I wouldn't bank on it too much, but you can possibly still see Haunter. As you see here, there is a bulk point with Haunter. Other than that, a lot of the other matchups you see that Registeel loses against, or Registeel beats, is mostly due to the fact it has more HP. Except for probably, I think Sableye. I saw Sableye had one. Yeah, so there's one against bulk point, like Meganium, but there's also against Sableye. As you see here. So Sableye, there is a bulk point. That's why you win. In other words, Registeel is the Pokemon where IVs do matter. As you see here, in order to guarantee Shadow Claw damage, you need these IVs. So 2 attack, 13, 14. So IVs do matter when it comes to the big hunk of junk called Registeel. Alright, I hope you guys enjoy this analysis. Here's a new additional thing I'm going to do. Instead of, like I said, if I run through things quickly, is going to be a team builder. So, Registeel, if you really want to use in a team, as you see here, has great bulk and great consistency. However, the coverage is terrible simply because of fighters. And it's also not very safe just because of the fact that if something's up shields, there's a lot of things that can just bully through Registeel with 2 shields. If you're going to use Registeel, make sure you put 2 things in the front that could possibly out pressure. Let's put, for example, let's see, if you put Altaria in the lead with it, and then if you put Altaria in it, and then let's say you put something like Jellicent as a safe switch. Let's do that. So if you put these 2 with it, again, you want 2 things that cover basically the ground weakness that Registeel presents, and also the fighter weakness. So Jellicent and Altaria would be a great combination with it. Of course, lead with that, and then we'll put Registeel in the back. But as you see, that's what you want with Registeel. You want 2 things that beat fighters in the first 2 as your lead and as your switch to cover Registeel. Again, you can sack your both front mons and then leave a Registeel, or just give Registeel shield advantage, either or. If you put Registeel in a great matchup, in a great position, as you see here, it'll do really well for you, especially in... Ooh, this team has a really low threat score. Woo! Ooh! Ooh, I might have inadvertently found a really good team. Oh, wait, hold on. That's the wrong one. Never mind. I'm using the wrong one. Anyways, okay, let's see the real one. That's right. Okay, please ignore the past 5 minutes. Okay, wow, this team is actually still really, really good. Okay, hold the phone. Wow. So, I think I found a really, really good team, guys. Yeah. This is a really, really good team. Yeah. So, with this one, hold on. If you use a Hex one, so it looks like Registeel actually pairs best with Jellicent and Altaria. This is literally like the lowest threat score I've ever seen. So if you give it Hex, what happens here is that, okay, so Hex or Bubble will do well for you, but as you see here, this is a very low threat score team. Again, put 2 things that cover fighters in the lead with Registeel, because you want to be able to take out both of those and Registeel in the back. Even if you put Altaria with Registeel, it's fine, because what happens is that Registeel has such a dominant matchup against Charmers. Don't worry if Altaria lines up against Charmers, because Registeel can flash cannon them to death. Of course, if you can't pivot out with Altaria, you're going to lose it. I mean, you can leave Altaria in his shield with back, again, like I said. But, as you see here, really good team. Again, just have 2 coverage with Registeel in the lead, and you'll be fine. And that's it! I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, Registeel is super meta. It's going to be really good in here. However, don't feel compelled like you have to have one on your team. There's a lot of things that can work, especially like fighters that can go check Registeel. Registeel is just such a beast though because of its ability. Flash Cannon does heavy damage. Focus Blast fighting in general has great coverage. Again, you can literally beat Scrafty in the ones just because Focus Blast does such heavy damage. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. If you are planning using Registeel, please use the tips I used, or hopefully this does help you build a team with Registeel if you plan on using it for the Great League Remix. If you haven't done so, please like and subscribe. I hope you guys are liking this new format where I kind of just put everything out online and just run through it really fast, or the most relevant data that I can. Good luck on your Go Battle League sets, and I will see you on the next video.